Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Betting Life Show brought to you by Fantasy Life. I'm Matthew Freedman, Matt F. the Oracle. The NHL conference finals are set. We have Rangers, Panthers, and Stars versus the Oilers. Geoff, you're Oilers, by the way, and apologies to producer James Lynch, whose Canucks did not make the cut there. But we've got two pretty intriguing series to talk about. And here with me to break down the conference final series is Geoff Ulrich, aka the Fantasy Grind. Geoff, how are you doing in the aftermath of that triumphant Oilers victory last night?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like this pod, my attitude, my entire demeanor would have been a lot different if the Oilers had not got that done, especially if they had actually given up a 3-goal lead. So, major stumbling block for the Oilers overcome. The Canucks were pesky. The Canucks really outperformed this year. I wrote an article on Fantasy Life the other day that, they were minus 150 at a lot of sports books not to make the playoffs before the season even started. So for them to get as far as they did, win the division, it's pretty big outperformance by them. Good core going forward. But yeah, I think that the Oilers, who were basically been the best team since, say, I think around December 1st, that would have been a monumental beep up, for them to lose that series. So good for them to get through. And I think that personally, the Stars Oilers is the much more entertaining series that we're going to see, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we will definitely get to that. And by the way, it's not like the Canucks were terrible. Like the Canucks, they had a good record. I don't think it
Absolutely.
would have been a massive upset if they had beaten the Oilers. But I got to say, people who know me know that I am a longtime bandwagon Stars fan. So
Oh,
much so that I don't have any Stars clothing, no Stars baseball hat, anything like that. But when they make it this far, I am definitely rooting for the Stars and not
hey.
just the Dallas Mavericks. So Geoff,
And when you have the added benefit of being able to just rub it in my face if they win, in our company Slack, then yes, absolutely.
yes. So yeah, the rivalry now shifts from you and Lynch to you and me. But yes, we will definitely talk about the Stars Oilers series. First, let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. Rangers, Panthers. Start with the Rangers. Give me a sense of this team's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, no, I mean the Rangers obviously, I think I really like this Final Four. I mean, just to start off, I think these are two exciting series, but the Rangers, an exciting team from the sense that, they do allow a lot of shots on net. I think that of the four teams remaining, they're probably, just 5-on-5. They give up the most high danger chances. They're not great 5-on-5. You look at the advanced metrics. I think a lot of people look at that and they say, well, maybe this team isn't as good. But they picked up the play enough versus Carolina, who was really dominant, at even strength, and they held their own with them, and they even got some decent chances. They even got over on the Hurricanes in a few games. But the Rangers to me are a team that they're like a counterpunching team. They have high end special teams. They're extremely capable of blowing a game open with their power play. And then they have the best goalie, probably, one of the best goalies in the world, Igor Shasterkin, who makes the big save, allows them to come back with guys like Panarin on the counterattack, Chris Kreider, pick your guy, Lafreniere, and capitalize on their chances. So they're very much what you call like a counterpunching team. They're going to get outmatched here again, 5-on-5 versus Florida, but the Rangers have already beaten one of the most dominant teams in the East all season in Carolina. So it's hard to look at the metrics and just say, oh, yeah, well, New York can't get it done. They've proven that their special teams and goaltending is enough to get them past the 7-game series. So really fun team to watch. They do have, like I said, their weaknesses. They're going to give up shots. They're going to get outshot in the series, but they have the high-end talent to counterpunch, to take over games with their power play. And if they can just hold their own with Florida and kind of fend off the waves, then we could see a similar series to round two.
All right, talk to me about the Panthers, their strengths and weaknesses. They are coming off of a 4-2 series victory over the Bruins. Sadly enough for all the people here in the Northeast. Of course, they still have the Boston Celtics to root for, so it's not all sadness for them. But
Yeah.
talk to me about the Panthers.
I don't ever feel bad for a Boston area team when they go out. It's like they're just respawning. It's like Call of Duty. When you kill one of them, another one just pops up. So no, I don't feel bad for the Bruins fans. You look, the Panthers are again like a fun team to watch, in my opinion. They are probably, when you're talking about just in terms of like teams that really dominate 5-on-5, create chances, they're right up there with the best of the best, and they are going to outshoot the Rangers in this series, just like they outshot the Bruins. The Bruins did hold their own versus Florida. They did expose them a little bit. They showed that if you show up, you skate a little bit, like you can get your chances on Florida. And I was really surprised with how well Boston did pushing them, and I think that sort of bodes well for the Rangers a little bit. But this is still a Florida team that, I mean, people were like, oh, Tampa Bay might give them trouble. They really just kind of took care of Tampa Bay without too much difficulty. People were like, Bobrovsky is going to be the issue against Boston. They're going to get out goaltended. Bobrovsky is fine because Florida just kept out shooting the Bruins, and they eventually buried their chances. They wore the Bruins down. And that's probably the Florida Panthers' plan against the Rangers. They tend to wear teams down because of how dominant they can be 5-on-5. They're a very strong, even strength team. Their special teams are not as good, in my opinion, as the Rangers. They're really going to need their power play probably to come through and just keep up with the Rangers, and potentially their penalty kill to be great. But they're a very, very deep team. They certainly have the depth edge again. And they're just going to keep coming. The Rangers are not going to be able to do what they did against the Hurricanes, which is give up those kind of 2 games in a row. The Rangers are going to have to bury their chances when they have them, because if they don't, I really do think one path of this series is that Florida potentially just comes out, surprises the Rangers a little bit, gets them on their heels, and this series is over quick, especially if Bobrovsky gives them any goaltending. So I'm not expecting a short series, but certainly if one of these teams were to win in 4 or 5 games, I would definitely be picking the Panthers. People like to pick apart the Panthers with the goaltending and stuff like that. And sometimes their offense doesn't quite generate as many goals as they should, but they're a very strong team. Like I said, as we've seen in the first 2 rounds, they are you can beat them, but they are hard to beat 2 games in a row.
All right, so looking at the Panthers right now, minus 150 to win the series at DraftKings, the Rangers plus 130. And then if we are looking at game one, which is coming up, we're recording this on Tuesday. It's coming up on Wednesday night. The Panthers are minus 115 favorites, the Rangers minus 105. How are you, if you are betting this series, how are you betting it?
So I'm gonna start. Let's start with game one since we just talked about it, and I really do think you look at the line right now. The Panthers are minus 115 on DraftKings. The Rangers are small underdogs at home, and you might say, well, I mean, just take the Rangers when they're underdogs, but Florida on the road versus Boston was minus 150, minus 155, and now they're minus 115. And everyone's talking about the Rangers right now and Shasterkin this and all this stuff. And the Rangers are the team from New York. They're going to get the more attention. I think the Panthers are the play in game one. I really do. I think that the Rangers coming off that big win, they obviously made it a little bit tighter after getting up 3-0 than they wanted to. But I think that the Panthers can come out and surprise the Rangers a little bit, just with how resilient they're going to be 5-on-5 and potentially just catch that Rangers power play napping a little bit. I like the Panthers number a lot in game one. I think that they should be favorites. They are the favorites in the series. I think they should be slightly bigger favorites. I don't think home ice is just that big an advantage in the NHL, and that's kind of played out the entire series. We saw a Dallas Golden Knights series where basically the road team won almost every game. I just don't put that much emphasis on home ice. I think that the Panthers number here has come down a little bit too much. I would lean them for game one. Now, from a series and a futures perspective, I do have a Rangers bet I really like. And this is one where, you're kind of gaining leverage by going away from the traditional Stanley Cup market. But Igor Shesterkin has moved up to plus 550 in the Conn Smythe MVP market. And if you like the Rangers, and if you even like the Rangers in this series, I think it's just a great bet. The Rangers are plus 400 in the outright odds for the Stanley Cup. Shesterkin, if the Rangers win, there's very few scenarios that I can see play out where Shesterkin doesn't win the Conn Smythe. They've got 5 players who are all around the same kind of point totals right now. Zibanejad, Panarin, even Lafreniere's up there. So one of those guys would really have to break out over the next 2 series and really break free. And the Rangers would also have to start winning shootouts because Shesterkin would have to start allowing goals for Shesterkin not to win the Conn Smythe. So if you like the Rangers long term, I think Shesterkin Conn Smythe is a really good bet. I put that in our bet tracker on Fantasy Life as well. I just think that's a great way to play the Rangers long term. For this series, I I want to. The Rangers are really interesting as the underdog play. I just think that after looking at it and just diving in again last night, I just don't really want to pick against the Panthers in this spot. I think that playing the Panthers straight up in some of these games, especially early in the series, will probably be my favorite way to go about it. But I like getting the leverage with the Shasterkin future, and then playing maybe some Panthers, game by game here. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this series for bets.
All right. So now let's get to the all important Western Conference Finals. And let's start with my hometown Stars. Talk to me about their strengths and, if you must, touch on their weaknesses.
I mean, Dallas, and not to not to suck up to the host here, but I mean, Dallas is one of those teams where it's hard for me to sit here and be like, well, they this is like their clear weakness. They really don't have a clear weakness. They have good special teams. Their special teams, they're one of the rare teams in the NHL whose special teams can really match the Oilers. They're not as good on the penalty kill, which is going to be a big factor here, because if they can't shut down the Oilers power play, that's going to be a big issue. But they certainly have a power play that is basically just as efficient as the Oilers, or really close to as efficient. I think their other edge that a lot of people are going to point to is in net with Jake Ottinger. Ottinger is like the co-favorite with Shesterkin right now in the Conn Smythe Trophy odds. He's been good. He was really good against Vegas. I'd say he kind of regressed a little bit against Colorado. Ottinger is a really interesting goalie. He has his moments where he looks almost unstoppable. He also has moments though where he's, quite frankly, pretty average. And he's coming off like not his best regular season. I think that the Oilers can get to Ottinger, and I don't think that the goaltending advantage they have is as big as people think it is. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at. Certainly, though, by the numbers, Ottinger is the better goalie in this series. I think that the other thing that the Stars can do, and in a lot of ways, I look at the Stars as kind of like the souped up version of the Canucks. They're good defensively. They're good at limiting other teams' chances. They're not impossible to get over on, but the thing they have that the Canucks didn't have, quite frankly, is they just have more depth and skill throughout their lineup. Tyler Seguin, I think centering the third line is going to be really key. I think that the Stars' depth could be an issue for the Oilers as we get deeper in this series, especially 5-on-5. That Seguin line can potentially come through for them with some big goals. Jason Robertson on the power play, I think that just gives them an element that the Canucks didn't have. The Canucks power play was really bad in that series against Edmonton. I don't expect the same performance from Dallas. So Dallas just a very well-rounded team. They're good at creating chances. They're good at limiting the other team's chances, and they're going to be a tough team for the Oilers to get through. But certainly they're not unbulletproof by any means. Colorado got their chances against them. They got to Ottinger, and I think the Oilers will turn this into a bit more of a shootout series for sure. You're going to see more goals in this series than he did against the Canucks. So the Stars are very well rounded. I would say that they don't have the top end skill advantage though in this series. That's probably one of their biggest weaknesses. And I think that their goaltending and defense can kind of come and go. It's not the most mobile defense, very solid, very sound structurally. But I think that good skating teams, as Colorado showed, can still score on Dallas.
All right. Now, talk to me about your Oilers, what it is that they do well and what they need to do better if they're going to beat the Mighty Stars.
I mean, strap in. Let's get the hour dialogue going here on the Edmonton Oilers. Really pick them apart. But the Oilers are, it's pretty much what you see, what you get. This is a team that wants to beat you with top end talent. They want to outskate you. They want to dominate the time of possession. They want to, they just want to put you to sleep. They want to get the power play goal. They want to just break your will, basically, with just wave after wave, big plays. And they don't mind if you get 3 or 4 goals, because they're going to get 6 or 7. That's kind of the way Edmonton, I think, wants to play. They don't always play like that. They have their moments where, they just sort of suffocate the other team, and the other team kind of just, wilts away. We kind of saw that in the last 2 games against the Canucks. And I think when you look at that Canucks series, we really didn't see the Oilers show up until the last 2 games, where they really dominated the time of the possession at 5-on-5. They didn't allow the Canucks to really have the puck much. The Canucks shots on goal were just, pitiful, and their chances the last couple games. They're not going to be able to suffocate the Stars to the same extent, but if that Oilers team does show up, certainly they're going to have a much better chance against Dallas. But to the Oilers' weaknesses here, if that skating team that we saw the last two games doesn't show up, their defense is susceptible. They get out of position a lot, and I mentioned that depth scoring that Dallas has. If their defense is out of position, like the Stars will make the Oilers pay more than the Canucks did. The Canucks the first couple games of that series certainly had their chances as well, and they buried some of them. But the Oilers' weaknesses are goaltending and defense, and it's no shock to anyone. Stuart Skinner is a very, very sort of schizophrenic goaltender. He is either absolutely locked in or he is just atrocious. And we're probably going to see both Stuart Skinners in this series. I would not be shocked if you saw Calvin Pickard again for a game. But if the good Skinner shows up for multiple games, he's also capable of stealing games. And I think that's what's overlooked with the Oilers is that their goaltending, it's not consistent, but there is upside there with Skinner. So that's going to be a big theme for the Oilers. If they can get like him to steal a game, much like he did in round one against the Kings, huge advantage for them. They have a great power play. They have a great penalty kill. They basically do have the edge there against Dallas, but they need their defense to outperform, and they need a ceiling game or two from Stuart Skinner, in my opinion. But both are very doable. I give the edge to the Oilers. I really do. I think that when you look at the cards, at the end of the day, the Oilers are the higher end team. They have the bigger ceiling. But this should be a really good series. I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be back and forth, and both teams will have their moments.
All right. So looking at the game one price, we have the Stars at home -125, at DraftKings, the Oilers +105. Is that something that you would be interested in, or are you going to look more at the playoff series? Actually, my mistake. Playoff series, Stars -125, the Oilers +105. And then for the actual game, it is Stars -130, Oilers +110. So comparable numbers, but how are you approaching this? Hopefully setting aside your Oilers fandom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I think that coming off the Vancouver series, you do have to say, like, regardless of who you're cheering for in this series, I think that the Oilers are probably a little bit undervalued right now. They took 7 games to beat the Canucks, a team that a lot of people probably didn't have rated like super high. Although again, I think that they were probably underrated as well. And I think that there's just a little bit of negative sentiment coming off. But again, really a tale of two series for the Oilers. First 5 games, not great. Last 2 games, very dominant. And if that team shows up, I really like that +110 number for game one. So I like the Oilers for the series. I don't have a problem betting them there. I think you could even think about taking the Oilers -1.5. It's a little risky. I would, I haven't quite decided on that yet, but I do like the Oilers for game one. I think that +110 is fair. I like the idea too that, we've seen multiple times in this playoffs, teams coming off long rests, they just don't start well. It hurt the Avalanche last round. It hurt the Panthers came out in round 2 against the Bruins and just absolutely laid an egg. I'm not necessarily expecting Dallas to lay an egg, but the Oilers are probably going to be skating just like they did in game 7. And that's going to be tough for the Stars to shut down for 60 minutes. If Oninger isn't on his game, I really think the Oilers could get to 4 or 5 goals in that first game. Like betting the Oilers in game 1. I think that if you're looking for a series bet, again, like I lean the underdog in this series, especially. I lean the underdog just because I think it's very close. I think both teams are very good, and I rate this really close. So would just lean the underdog for that reason. And I think that if you're looking for a little bit of like a more higher variance outcome with a better payout, I would lean Oilers -1.5. That game 6 is in Edmonton too, and if they do get that first game win, would certainly have a chance to close it out. That actually brings me to one more futures bet. If you do like the Oilers in game 1, you could always take the Oilers to win game 1 and win the series. I don't have the exact price up here in front of me, but I believe it's over +200 on DraftKings. So that's another bet. Again, it all depends on how you want to play it, but I like that idea for the simple reason that I like the Oilers in game 1. So.
All right. Anything in that series stand out to you on the player prop perspective? I mean,
Yes.
a lot of really good players in this series. Where are you thinking?
So I really like Jason Robertson as a player for the Stars. And he didn't do much in round two. He didn't shoot the puck much. I shouldn't say he didn't do much. He was pretty integral to their power play. He picked up a bunch of assists. I believe he may have gone goalless in that series though, but he was pretty good against Vegas in round one. He had some power play goals, and his goal prop in the first game is all the way up to plus 225. That is a really big number. I think that against the Oilers, it's going to be a little bit more wide open. Potentially, I think they're just going to need Jason Robertson in this game to be a goal scorer, to be a little bit more of like a dominant player. And I think that at plus 225 at this point, we're just getting too good a number to kind of look past. So Robertson is a player I'm certainly looking at for game one. And I think if you like the Stars, it's not outlandish to think that maybe Robertson even leads this series in goals. So again, we're asking for a little bit of a change in sort of role for Robertson, but we saw him come through in round one with multiple goals, and I think that you could probably see that again from him. So like Jason Robertson in this series, that's certainly one player I'm looking at for round one. I think that his price has just kind of come up to a point where it's almost just an auto bet for me. Certainly at plus 225, I don't think we saw that number very often, if ever, during the regular season. So one that stuck out to me, I think that I'd like a little bit more clarity on Connor McDavid before I started betting his goal props. I'm not really sure why he's not shooting the puck much. Didn't have much success against Vancouver, but he has had success against Dallas in the past. So another goal prop there, McDavid. It's come up to a place where we just don't regularly see it around plus 135, plus 145. So a couple of names to look at there. And I'm just looking at the most goals in series for Edmonton. Robertson's at plus 800. I think I said plus 1100. He's at plus 800. The second shortest odds on the Stars. And then you've got Draisaitl plus 450, McDavid at plus 550. I think if I was betting an Oiler, I'd probably lean Draisaitl. If I was betting a Stars in the most goals in the series category, I would lean Jason Robertson.
All right. Final question here. Out of all of the bets that you've talked about, which one is your favorite?
I really do think like Shasterkin to win MVP just makes the most sense from so many perspectives. I know I kind of talked up the Panthers in that series, but again, I mean, I think that these four teams are all elite teams. There's no like passengers here. I mean, I think any four of these teams could get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think that when you're just looking long term, and just the kind of the difference in price that we're getting with Shasterkin versus the Rangers Stanley Cup odds, it's just the bet that stands out to me the most. So Shasterkin to win Conn Smythe, probably my favorite bet, just from from all the ones we've kind of brought up so far.
All right. Beautiful. Great stuff, Geoff. Agree with almost all of that, except of course the Oilers love, but you know more than I do. So my betting interest is not purely objective in this, but good stuff. That is going to do it for this episode of the Betting Life Show, brought to you by Fantasy Life. Please subscribe to the show as well as the newsletter. Tell your degenerate betting friends, join the Discord, see all of our bets in the free Fantasy Life bet tracker, and follow us on social media at the Fantasy Grind and Matt F. the Oracle. Thank you, and see you again next episode.